What is stopping you from following the guidance, right? Um, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this one, He says, Huda came to you, right? Huda here is in the Quran. Uh, and every single revelation that was sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the prophets, it's like, what is preventing you? Of course, we know the ego that people have, the fear for losing their positions, their wealth, and so on and so forth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that, but He's amazed, like, that is of no value. Like, if you look at it, it's not worth it. Like, you're selling, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that in so many ayahs, in so many surahs, you're selling your deen for dunya. Meaning you're giving up the deen, which clearly is stated with all the revelation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent, and you're deciding that no, my position is actually more worthy for me than following the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it. It's like, meaning is like, really? That's what's stopping you? And then He says, amazingly, He says, إِلَّا أَن تَأْتِيَهُمْ سُنَّةُ الْأَوَّلِينَ أَوْ يَأْتِيَهُمُ الْعَذَابُ قُبُلًا. Here in summary, if you look at it, one of the great examples that we could use, Fir'aun. Musa alayhi salam showed him all the signs. And when I say all the signs, meaning like, if you see it, you better believe it. But Fir'aun rejected it. He claimed to be God, but when he was drowning, he said, I believe in the Lord of Musa. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, is that what you're waiting for? Is that you're waiting for calamity to befall you, then you will actually believe? So that's exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here. And then He follows that and says, وَمَا نُرْسِلُ الْمُرْسَلِينَ إِلَّا مُبَشِّرِينَ وَمُنذِرِينَ. If you remember in the beginning of Surah Kahf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it's here, the Quran, the stories, everything that we're revealing, it has warnings to all and glad tidiness to the believers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the work that is given to the prophets is to serve these two. To warn us as humans that if we do not follow the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will be among the losers. And also to give glad tidings to those who are following the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, Tawheed and everything falls within that. If you believe this is Tawheed, this instruction, that will actually, if you follow, you'll be given the glad tidings. If you do not follow, then you are given the warnings. So that's their jobs. Hidayah is not their job. Meaning the second part of Hidayah. The first part, they will share all that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. And as they're doing that, they serve in the purpose of giving glad tidings and warning. But the end, it's not in their hands to actually guide someone or misguide somebody else. So, because also there are those who ask the question, again, not asking it in a nice way. The kuffar, they say, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed, he would have guided us. Like, why didn't He? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, I created you as a mukhayyar. And we spoke about this, if you remember. We said, al-malaika are musayyarun. Malaika, they're created, they don't have the choices like, oh, do I want to do good or no, they don't have that. Al-ins al-jinn, we are mukhayyarun. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us the evidence, shows the proof, whether it was during the time of prophets or even in our time. Alhamdulillah, we have the Quran. The evidence is there. The Hidayah, the first level Hidayah is there, but the rest is up to us. It's up to us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, that is how I created you, so the choice is yours to be made. So the third part, or the third story that we have here, and this goes about Musa alayhi salam, and the one way actually that I look at it, again, I mentioned earlier about the knowledge and all of that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands Musa to show him that he's not the most knowledgeable one. There's always somebody who has more knowledge. But of course, Khidr here, actually a number of the scholars, they say he is a prophet. It's not really a topic for us to indulge in. Again, it really doesn't make a difference for us as long as we know that he was getting the knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was not a personal decision that he was making at any given time. None of his decisions or actions were from personal assessments. So Musa alayhi salam travels with him, and Khidr actually warns him, and he says, you will not be patient with me. This journey is going to be difficult for you. And he said, no, I will follow you. And he said, I want to learn from you. And he says, قال له موسى هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا قال إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا وكيف تصبر على ما لم تحط به خبرا قال ستجدني إن شاء الله صابرا ولا أعصي لك أمرا قال فإن اتبعتني فلا تسألني عن شيء حتى أحدث لك منه ذكرا فانطلق. And then we'll get to the story. Believe it or not, in this conversation, in which in summary Khidr tells Musa, after Musa asked him, he said, I want to follow you so I can learn from that which you were given as knowledge. Khidr said, you'll not be able to travel with me. And he said, you'll not be patient with that which I will be doing and you have no knowledge of. And Musa said, you'll find me as a patient person. I'll be patient, I promise. So a few lessons from this one. The first one, it shows that because Khidr has more knowledge than Musa does, then Musa will be the one who is puzzled, will be the one who will not make sense of why things are happening. What's the lesson? That's Khidr and Musa. And we learn about the struggles that Musa had with Khidr. So imagine things that are done by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, our knowledge compared to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge is nothing. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this story, alhamdulillah, He tells us the reasons. And we're going to talk about actually, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals it at times and He doesn't reveal it at other times. I don't want to get into that before it's time. But the point is, for us, how dare we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when things happen to us? What do I mean by that? Sometimes it's like, Ya Allah, why me? Or Ya Allah, why now? Or Ya Allah, why this? Or why that? Or why not this? Or why not that? Why not me? Why I'm not getting that? Why? Musa alayhi salam struggled, and he actually had a better judgment and assessment than we do. Remember, he was what? He was a prophet. And his knowledge, because it was lower than another prophet, if we go with the assumption or this, what scholars say that he is a prophet. So a prophet with another prophet, one has less knowledge. He had a really difficult time making sense of things. He struggled. Even the Prophet ﷺ said, if my brother Musa was more patient, we would have learned more. And that was only limited knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to reveal to Khidr. So now you do the assessment. The knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, continues to have, which we don't have, and a lot of things happen out of the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have no right to actually question the qada and qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, the other lesson is Musa alayhi salam thought that he would be patient. He made a promise. He said, ستجدني إن شاء الله صابرا ولا أعصي لك أمرا. So he said, I will be patient. He said, Insha'Allah. But the key here, he said, ولا أعصي لك أمرا. He said, I will be patient and I will not disobey you. Interestingly enough, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, speaking about the people who will actually enter Jannah without any questioning. Who are they? And we mentioned this before. We said, as-sabirin, the patient ones. Why? Because if you're patient, you will not disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at this ayah. He said, ستجدني إن شاء الله صابرا ولا أعصي لك أمرا. He's recognizing that I will be patient, and if I am patient, which I am planning to be, I will obey you. I will not disobey you. Any command, anything you say, I will follow. So here, and actually if we follow them throughout the story, every time Musa alayhi salam is not patient, what does he do? He questions the decisions or the actions that were made by Khidr. Again, our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are a person who is pleased with the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that anything happens to you, you say Alhamdulillah. There's good in it. I might not see it right now. I might not make sense of things, but Alhamdulillah, I'll be patient. Then you're more likely to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not disobey Him. Therefore, you're more likely, inshallah, to be among the sabirin that will enter Jannah bighayri hisab. But of course, we know that Musa, with the knowledge that he had, he actually was not patient. So what does that mean? If you look at this, actually, Allah is saying, being a patient one is not something easy done. You can try, and you should, but you cannot claim to be a patient person unless you're truly patient through difficult times. So, and of course, they got on the ship, and Khidr ends up digging a hole in the ship, and of course, Musa, he said, قال أخرقتها لتغرق أهلها لقد جئت شيئا إمرا قال ألم أقل لك إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا قال لا تؤاخذني بما نسيت ولا ترهقني من أمري عسرا. So Khidr ends up digging the hole in the ship, and Musa right away, he was not patient. He said, why would you do that? He said, you did it, and actually he assumed, he said, you did it to drown its people. And actually, the fact that somebody gave them a ride, instead of thanking them, Khidr ended up digging a hole. So here actually we're going to start bringing Qada and Qadr. Actually I'll bring it later so we can actually look at it in summary. So, and then Khidr right away, he says, didn't I tell you you're not going to be patient with me? And he says, please, I forgot. See, patience is something that you practice. It's not something that you state or make a statement and say, oh, I'm a patient person. You can make any statement that you want, but it's practice. And it's not something that you're patient when you're hungry or thirsty. You know, that's nothing. You're talking about big events that you're not making sense of. You have to be patient with. And then they continued the journey. And then he kills a boy. He says, قال أقتلت نفسا زكية بغير نفس لقد جئت شيئا نكرا. And actually he continues to describe his actions as things are not acceptable, something forbidden, something ugly, and so on and so forth, throughout the story. Here he says, after Khidr of course killed the boy, he says, you killed a soul with no rights. Meaning this boy, if he killed somebody else, and again the age and all that is something different, but the point is, like, you had no right to kill him. Like, you just killed a boy. Like, you had no right. If you notice, Khidr does not clarify. He does not give him the reason, but he reminds him. He says, قال ألم أقل لك إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا قال إن سألتك عن شيء بعدها فلا تصاحبني قد بلغت من لدني عذرا. He said, didn't I tell you that you're not going to be patient with me? He said, you know what? If I ask you about anything after this, we go our separate ways. You don't have to keep me as a companion. We'll go our separate ways. He said, you've reached the max with me. I made the promise earlier before we started traveling. I made the promise after you dug the hole in the ship, and here I am breaking my promise. So you don't have to travel with me after this. And interestingly enough, after digging the hole and after killing the boy, you would think that it's going to get worse, meaning he's going to do something even more harmful to whatever situation or person they might find themselves in. So they enter a village and they were hungry. They asked for food, and of course, the villagers refused to give them food. Khidr sees a wall that was falling, and he says, "You know what? I'm going to erect that wall," and he did. And that's it. Musa's like, nothing is making sense here. The bad things you were not supposed to be doing, you did. The good thing that you should be doing after we should have been fed, you actually still did it, even though we got nothing. He said, at least ask for money. And Khidr said, you know what? هذا فراق بيني وبينك. سأنبئك بتأويل ما لم تستطع عليه صبرا. He said, you know what? This is it. This wall right here, it's the end of it. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to explain to you what happened and the things that you did not understand. So let's bring qadar, the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, into this. The people of the ship, they gave him the ride, and Khidr ended up digging the hole. The people of the ship did not make sense of it either. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually allowed for them to see the benefit of that which seemed to be harmful or unfair even, how it actually saved something even bigger. So this is actually, we live this in our life. So this is where we have to plug ourselves in. Meaning, sometimes things happen to you, you're really disappointed, you're sad, you're not happy with them, you're not making sense of them, you're puzzled, you're just confused. And then days, months, sometimes years later, it makes sense to you. You're like, wow, if that did not happen, I would not be here. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't be getting what I'm getting right now. So that's exactly what happened to the people of the ship. They got to see the king who was taking the ships by force. And because of the hole that was in their ship, he did not want to take a broken ship, so he let him go. So it was an easy fix, and they got to keep their ship. The second story, Khidr says, yes, I killed that boy, but that boy would have been a difficult one for his parents, and he would be a kafir, which will break the parents' hearts. And actually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replaced him with another one. So this is the other qada and qadar, is that sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes something away from us, or something might happen to us, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replaces that with something even better, but we still do not make the connection. If you look at the parents, they were really saddened by the fact that they lost a kid, right? But of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with another one, but they were never, or they're dead. They never had the chance, because Khidr did not explain it to them, he only explained it to Musa. And through that, we actually get to make sense of qada and qadar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with another boy, but they never made the connection that the death of the first one was a blessing, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace the first one with the second one. So it happens to us. We lose something happens to us, and then something great happens, but we never think of making a direct connection. So that's another way of how actually qadar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works. And then the last one, the fact that he erected the wall, because he said that wall did not belong to the people of the village. They might have benefited from it, but actually the primary beneficiaries were the orphans whom their father passed away. So what does that mean to us? It means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes things happen without even our knowledge. They might happen at a different time, different place, only to serve the purpose of benefiting us. I mean, there's something right now, as you're watching this, happening to somebody, or somebody's doing something, or something that might have happened in the past, or something that's going to happen in the future, that eventually the primary beneficiary is you. And that's how also qada and qadar works. Also, something might happen to you that will benefit others. So you are part of al-qada and qadar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is intended to be for somebody else. So I'm going to actually end it here, so I can revisit the surah on a different video and try to have a different approach to it, just to show you how One of the beautiful things about the Quran is you could approach the same surah and have a different reflection and tadabbur when it comes to these surahs. And I will end it here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.